Part 41. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 402. After Wu Yu forged the golden body of Nanwu Haori King Buddha, he quickly rushed back and returned in a straight line, arriving directly in most of the day. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. After returning, he felt relieved to see that the Yanhuang warship was still here. Then, he faced Haisha and Kang Xiu Feng. At this moment, Haisha couldn't help but attack directly with the ghastly black sword in his hand. As soon as the black sword came out, the entire sea area seemed to be shrouded in a cage. Countless black sword energy swept across, turning into black poisonous snakes, entangling around the seabed, locking Wu Yu to death. On the other side of the Yanhuang warship, Huangfu Pajun charged out with great momentum. Seeing him appear, Kang Shuqingfeng laughed loudly and went up to him. Without saying a word, he started a life and death battle in the Lanling gold mine. Huangfu Pajun was so decisive and straightforward, but in fact, many centurions did not react for a while. However, they did not dare to follow him. The deaths of Chen Kangsong and Chen Kangsong in the last battle with Baisha had frightened them enough. Black evil. Black evil, the ghost cultivator's eyes were red, extremely excited, howling and roaring. The lives of the Yanhuang immortal army were left in the hands of Wu Yu and Huangfu Pajun. To be honest, some people would complain about the two of them and felt that they should not participate. After all, this is the matter of the Kanghai Dao sect, and there is no need for this. But there are also passionate young men with a fighting spirit. Thousands of people focused their attention on the four fighting men. Now, Wu Yu's body contains a volcano. It's been brewing until now, and it's time for the volcano to erupt. People probably knew that the last time he killed Baisha was largely due to surprise, so this time, they were more worried about Wu Yu than Huangfu Pajun. For many people, their hearts are already in their throats. Nervous, worried, irritated. Roar. The violent power in his body made the blood boil all over his body at this moment, and every pore on his body was erupting with golden flames. Boom boom boom. Within the body, a volcano erupted, and golden flames continued to roll and spurt out of his body. The Yanhuang Optimus Prime's magic weapon array was operating, and turbulent fire was erupted. In the past, Yanhuang Optimus Prime was very heavy to Wu Yu. Now, even if the Super God Heavy Array is operated to the extreme, Wu Yu can hold it with ease. The Heavenly Ghost Soul-Eating Sword Technique. The black sword rolled in Haisha's hand, and the sharp sword energy roared in thousands, producing extremely strong vibrations. Wu Yu, after all, you are still afraid. Are you afraid that I will find your family, so you refuse to give up? In fact, you can choose to escape directly, but how can you come back, haha. Haisha really didn't expect that he would come back. If he were Wu Yu, he would have fled back to Yanhuang Emperor City in embarrassment at this time. Without saying a word, Wu Yu raised the Yanhuang Optimus Prime. The body surrounded by golden flames directly broke through the waves and charged towards Haisha's black sword shadow in the sky. Head-on collision. All eyes are on you. At that moment, Wu Yu shot his stick into the sky, and while roaring, all his strength exploded, and the Yanhuang Optimus Prime hit the black evil directly. Yellow Emperor's ground formation. On the Yanhuang Optimus Prime, the magic weapon array was operating, and the elixir instilled in it was not too strong, but Wu Yu's own physical power was now terrifyingly strong. Therefore, the golden light emitted by the stick is not much different from before, at least from the appearance. However, the real lethality is completely different. Shadow heart-piercing sword technique. Haisha was calm and collected. When Wu Yu broke through the heavy sword energy and charged towards him, he once again used a mysterious art of heaven and earth. Boom. Everyone clearly saw that Wu Yu's stick broke through many obstacles at a terrifying speed. When the Black Devil was stunned, It penetrated directly and hit his head instantly. Buzz. Under the blow of the stick, Heisha's face was stunned. When the whole person was still, his body suddenly exploded into pieces. His body was shattered to pieces, his soul was scattered. Nothing is left. Of course, his belongings were still kept for Wu Yu to pocket. He was simple and rude, killing the black evil on the spot. The scene of Heisha being blown to pieces with a blow to the head shocked everyone. I originally thought it was an earth-shattering battle, but it ended in the blink of an eye. I originally thought it would be Heisha suppressing Wu Yu, but I didn't expect that the ending would be Wu Yu's direct blow, killing Heisha on the spot, and Heisha didn't react at all. No chance. Even at the moment of his death in battle, he was stunned. He had never expected that he would die in battle at such a time. This is the most unexpected death. Huangfu Pajun was about to fight with all his strength against Kang Shueqing Feng, but something suddenly happened on Wu Yu's side. He and Kang Shueqing Feng were also instantly shocked. Wu Yu. Huangfu Pajun swallowed. To be honest, he didn't quite believe his eyes, or he believed that Heisha had used some means to hide himself and create the illusion of death. He was about to remind Wu Yu. Suddenly, Kang Shueqing Feng screamed and ran away. Yes, she understands Heisha and knows that Heisha has no such means at all. Even if he has the means to pretend to be dead, there is no need to use it here. In fact, not many people believe it. However, when they saw Kang Shueqing Feng fleeing, even if they couldn't believe it, they still had to believe that Wu Yu's return this time seemed different. Whoosh! When Kang Shueqing Feng fled in panic, Wu Yu waved the Yanhuang Optimus Prime and chased after him without saying a word. The art of trapping the dragon and trapping the sky. The left hand changed the Dao seal, displayed the Taoist technique, and flipped it with the other hand. Suddenly, a black vortex appeared at the feet of Kang Shueqing Feng. The black vortex swirled violently, and suddenly 8 black dragons rushed out, rising into the sky, and instantly swept Kang Shueqing Feng. Maple's body was entangled. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Wu Yu, please spare me. I have no grudge against you. I'm leaving now. I beg you to be driven out and killed. I realize that I was wrong. I went against you. It was because of my brain damage. I promise you, I will return to Ghost Eater Mountain from now on and I will never dare to be your enemy again. Kang Shueqing Feng knew clearly that Wu Yu seemed to be physically reborn again. Promote. As for the extent of improvement, she didn't know. At least she knew that if she didn't bow her head, she would definitely die today. So far, Huangfu Pajun, all the Yanhuang Immortal Army, and all the ghost cultivators are watching the scene in astonishment. Only some smart ghost cultivators know how to escape at this time. When the dragon prisoning technique entangled Kang Shueqing Feng, Wu Yu suddenly appeared in front of Kang Shueqing Feng and said, "I'm sorry, the ghost-devouring volcano is no longer there." What? Kang Shueqing Feng was stunned. "I swallowed the ghost-devouring volcano into my body," Wu Yu said coldly, and then rushed forward. "How is that possible?" Kang Shueqing Feng's face turned pale and she howled angrily. She suddenly broke away from the 8 black dragons and tore them apart. In a very short moment, the woman's upper body directly transformed into the head of a lion, and her body expanded instantly. It transformed into a huge undersea lion and let out a roar. In the roar, a huge scorching sun condensed in its mouth, surging and surging, almost as hot as Wu Yu. This is the natal magical power of his demonic body. However, before that, Wu Yu swept across with his stick. The Flame Emperor opens the sky formation. At that moment, anger surged, and the long stick swept away in an instant. In a very short moment, the scorching sun in the lion's mouth exploded directly, and Kang Shueqing Feng's body was also directly shattered and engulfed by golden flames. Kang Shueqing Feng was hit by Wu Yu and died on the spot just like the black evil spirit. For a time, it became quieter and quieter. It wasn't until the flames on Wu Yu's body disappeared, he put away the Yanhuang Optimus Prime, put on the majestic Yanhuang Immortal armor, and landed next to Huangfu Pajun that there were some sounds around him. The ghost cultivators were shocked and stunned. In just a short moment, they suddenly dispersed. This time, they could run as fast as they could. And obviously, they probably won't come here again, let alone stay here again. After all, what they encountered was a miraculous existence. When all the ghost cultivators escaped, only Huangfu Pajun, Wu Yu, and the Yanhuang warship were left here. Wu Yu, this is really, completely unexpected. Huangfu Pajun accepted this reality. The look in his eyes when he looked at Wu Yu was extremely shocked, and there was also some admiration in it. Wu Yu defeated his opponent, solved the problem, and gained another huge gain. He breathed a sigh of relief and said, "This time at the Ghost Eater Mountain, I had some extra gains to be able to kill these two people. They died in the battle. I don't think anyone will come here to trouble us anymore. That is, for an existence of this level, the Lanling gold mine is indeed not worth it." Huangfu Pajun was naturally ecstatic about the current situation. He thought it would be a deadly battle. After all, he himself was not willing to accept it. He and Haisha were actually on par. Now, victory across the board. He opened the Yanhuang warship and let the Yanhuang Immortal army who had been hiding for a long time come out one by one. Sure enough, after they came out, the eyes looking at Wu Yu were as if they were looking at gods, dumbfounded. "Commander Wu!" Everyone in Kishan camp rushed forward excitedly and surrounded Wu Yu. How much they admired Wu Yu. Even those who wanted to leave immediately before had their faces turned red at this time. They felt ashamed of their timidity. After all, compared with Wu Yu, they lacked a very important thing, and that was courage. Huangfu Pajun announced excitedly, "Following my instructions, we will continue to guard this place until the mission is completed in 2 months. No one can give up the mission without my order." Yes. The fighting will of the entire legion has risen to the extreme. Of course, in the future, it is estimated that no ghost cultivator will dare to come here to challenge this godlike existence among the younger generation of Yanhuang Emperor City. Under the arrangement of Huangfu Pajun, the Yanhuang Immortal army was stationed here again. Wu Yu was in charge of the west side, and he was in charge of the east side. Just arranged. Huangfu Pajun said, "Actually, what you gained by killing 3 powerful men far exceeded this mission. In total, not counting those used, it is estimated to be close to 3,000 Kanghai Yuan Kai pills. Of course, some other types of property are included, such as speaking instruments." Wu Yu smiled. He really gained a lot this time. Suddenly, he saw 2 sword lights in the distance. They had been dormant and suddenly appeared. They were obviously people from the Xuanhuan Immortal sect. There are still 2 chapters in the evening, which will be updated at 12 o'clock. That's today's update. Today's calculation is separate. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 403. Wu Yu is still very sensitive to the sword gang of Xuanhuan Immortal sect. The sword gang of Xuanhuan's sword penetrated the turbulent water flow on the seabed and branched out a channel leading directly here. And not 2, but 3 sword lights. Wu Yu had just defeated 2 ruthless opponents and had made great gains. The trouble had been solved and he was in a good mood. Suddenly, he encountered someone from Xuanhuan and his mood immediately deteriorated. When the 3 sword lights approached, Wu Yu quickly saw who they were. Wu Yu was very familiar with these 3, they were his acquaintances in Xuanhuan. The 2 leaders had gloomy expressions. When they saw Wu Yu, they couldn't help but smile cruelly and their muscles twitched. It was the Sword Master Xuanhuan and Sword Master Luo who had been staring at him for a long time. They really worked hard to chase Wu Yu. As for the third person between the 2, he is Wu Yu's mortal enemy. This is a young man, extremely handsome, as soft as water, but also as thick and surging as water, with infinite power all over his body. Especially when he comes to this vast sea, it feels even more like he has come to his own world. Baishan Inc. Wu Yu really didn't expect that the three of them would appear here. However, Zhang Xuechuan said that he should not stay in one place for too long while performing tasks. This time he was here for a month, and it was obviously these three who found out about his existence. Wu Yu Xuehua Sword Master's face was as cold as ice. She was in front of Wu Yu in an instant, and the Luo Sword Master led by her quickly arrived behind Wu Yu. As for Baishan Mo, he followed Xuehua Sword Master with a playful smile on his lips, looking down at Wu Yu coldly. After not seeing each other for a while, Wu Yu discovered that he had reached the third level of Zifukanghai realm. With his ability and talent, he is now estimated to be able to deal with the fifth level of Zifukanghai realm, which is equivalent to the heavenly sword level of Shushan, and the 1,000 commanders of Yanhuang Emperor City. However, Wu Yu is not weak either. Especially after achieving the golden body of Nanwu Ori King Buddha, even if he has not really caught up with Baishan Mo, he is actually not far behind. It would be difficult for Baishan Mo to suppress him like before. However, this time it was Sword Master Xuehua that Wu Yu was afraid of. Seeing that these were people from Shushan, the Yanhuang immortal army, including Huangfu Pajun, surrounded Wu Yu one after another, especially Kishan camp. They sensed the disadvantage of these three people from Shushan, and quickly came to Wu Yu. Surrounded by Wu Yu, it seems to be stronger again. Even ghost cultivators like this can be defeated easily. It seems that it is getting harder and harder to kill you. Maybe today is our last chance, Sword Master Xuehua said indifferently, moving towards Wu Yu stepped over from across the air. When he spoke, the terrifying pressure belonging to the Shushan Sword Master showed up again. For a moment, the 10,000 feet of sea water fell apart, and a large number of Yanhuang immortal troops were rushed out. For example, the monks from Kishan camp held hands together to stabilize themselves, but in the face of the pressure of the Sword Master, there was a big difference, so everyone looked pale and struggled to resist. In fact, its sharp sword intent was all acting on Wu Yu's body, just like several swords piercing Wu Yu's body, causing bursts of heart-piercing pain. Behind Wu Yu, the two burning gazes of the Luo Sword Master were like two tongs clamped on his shoulders. Wu Yu realized that even with such a physical body, the gap between him and the Shushan Sword Master was still very huge. After all, this was the gap in mana, the gap between Dan Yuan and his Zifu Yuan power, which was at least 10 realms apart. It can be said that no matter how strong the physical body is, this gap cannot be made up, just like the gap between a mortal and the Qi condensation realm. Naturally, I resented this repeated suppression. Indeed, enough is enough. Starting from the battlefield of life and death in Shushan, they have been entangled one after another and refused to let go. Although their daughter died in the battle, no matter what, the murderer would only be Wushan Shueqi if it was not his wish. They don't follow the Wushan blood Qi, but they cling to themselves. Hateful, pathetic. In the eyes of Sword Master Xuehua, he must be afraid that he is a despicable person, so he never cares about his face. He took a deep breath. He could bear the stinging pain on his body, but he still wanted to say, Sword Master, I have nothing to do with Shushan anymore. You have no right to kill me. Try saying something again, Sword Master Xuehua shouted, and everyone's ears suddenly stung. The cultivators from Kishan camp stood in front of Wu Yu, looking fiercely at Sword Master Xuehua. Huangfu Pajun said loudly, Sword Master, Wu Yu is from our Yanhuang Emperor City. You really have no right to kill him. And now, he is the highest level genius in our Yanhuang Emperor City. Our city lord and emperor commander, especially we value him and regard him as the future successor of Yanhuang Emperor City. Yanhuang Emperor City and Shushan Immortal Sect are both on the right path. If the sword master kills Wu Yu indiscriminately, then our city lord and emperor commander will have to let Xuanhuan suffer. Give an explanation. Huangfu Pajun was very smart. Although what he said was all fabricated, the city lord and the emperor's commander might not know Wu Yu at all, but judging from Wu Yu's performance in this mission, what he said was impossible. He raised Wu Yu's status to that of Qin Fui. If she dared to kill Qin Fui without a reason, it would definitely cause great turmoil. The same reason as General Gu killed Baishan Mo on a mission like this. After Sword Master Xuanhuan heard this, her expression changed. She had just seen Wu Yu's performance and was actually shocked. Now she is also struggling. Wu Yu is right in front of you, do you want to kill him? To kill, there will be pressure from both Tianji Sword Immortal and Yanhuang Emperor City. Without killing, it would be difficult to relieve the hatred, and even more difficult to let my daughter rest in peace. When I think of my daughter's death, the hatred in my heart is hard to dissipate. The more I look at Wu Yu, the more murderous desire I feel in my heart. Although there were various reasons to prove Wu Yu's innocence, she only confirmed one thing. It was Wu Yu's hand that killed Mu Lingch. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. On the side, Baishan Mo said coldly, "Are you people in Yanhuang Emperor City so ignorant that you even want to protect this murderer? There is not a single genius in Yanhuang Emperor City, so even the rubbish discarded by me and others in Xuanhuan are, do you regard it as a treasure?" Wu Yu frowned. Baishan Mo's words had offended him. Originally, he didn't hate Baishan Mo very much, but now that he saw the other person's harshness, it could be said that he was very annoying. In the Kishan camp, Wu Tianyu laughed angrily and said, "I dare to say that Commander Wu is rubbish, so what kind of a piece of shit are you? A group of blind fools in Xuanhuan are very arrogant now. If we look back 10 years from now, you will not even be able to carry Commander Wu's shoes. Not worthy." Fang Kaoken said, "In less than 10 years, in 3 years, Xuanhuan will regret it. What's the point of a bunch of bastards getting in the way while we're talking?" Baishan Mo snorted coldly, and 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes, which instantly transformed into ice sword energy and headed towards Wu Tianyu and Fang Kaoken. Bite! Wu Yu reached out and crushed the 2 sword energy into pieces. He blocked Baishan Mo's attack with his flesh and blood. Baishan Mo's eyes narrowed. In fact, he was also very turbulent in his heart, but he just didn't want to show it. Wu Yu's clean execution of 2 ghost cultivators just now gave him a very serious sense of crisis. I originally thought that there would be no problem if Wu Yu was expelled from Shu Mountain. Without the resources of Shu Mountain, Wu Yu would definitely be ruined. However, I didn't expect that Wu Yu would go to Yanhuang Emperor City and make him half-dead angry. This sense of crisis even made him want to encourage Sword Master Xuanhuan to kill Wu Yu on the spot. At this time, Huangfu Pajun said, "Regarding the matter of the beloved daughter of Sword Saint Xuanhuan, we in Yanhuang Emperor City also know the details. We also feel it is a pity for this, but in fact everyone in the world knows that this matter is caused by Wuxian blood. Qi Yu did it. Wu Yu was expelled from Xuanhuan for this and has been punished. Now Wu Yu is from Yanhuang Emperor City. The Sword Master really has no right to touch him. I have already informed Xuanhuan of what happened here through the messenger talisman. I just collected it." After receiving the news, several of our generals advised the Sword Master not to act recklessly, otherwise this matter will cause trouble in Xuanhuan. Before speaking, Huangfu Pajun did receive a Benwei talisman. In fact, he also made this up, but even so, it is enough for Sword Master Xuanhuan to think carefully. After hearing the news about Wu Yu, she chased after him again. She originally wanted to kill Wu Yu in one go, regardless of public opinion, and kill him first. However, she later discovered that Wu Yu had risen to such a level in such a short period of time. He naturally understood that Wu Yu was extremely talented, no less talented than Baishan Mo next to her. and with Huangfu Pajun threatening Yanhuang Emperor City twice in a row, she had to consider what would happen to Yanhuang Emperor City after killing such Wu Yu. Deal with her. Historically speaking, Yanhuang Emperor City dared to do anything, especially the Emperor Shui. I think the Sword Master is not very clear yet. Our Emperor Commander likes Wu Yu. Even the Yanhuang Optimus Prime in Wu Yu's hand is the Emperor Commander's former magic weapon. It was forged by the Emperor Commander himself. He is in our Yanhuang. The Sword Master should know how important Huangdi City is. I would like to advise the Sword Master not to do anything he regrets. Huangfu Pajun was actually very anxious, and he came up with another basis in his anxiety. Wu Yu was very grateful to him. If he survived today, it would be Huangfu Pajun who saved him. At least, Sword Master Xuanhuan came here to kill him. The Xuanhuan Sword Master looked indifferent, but he was actually struggling in his heart. At this time, the Luo Sword Master came to her side, shook his head and said, "Xuanhuan, give up, the best opportunity has been missed." One sentence also showed his helplessness. He is more sober than Xuanhuan Sword Master. Judging from Huangfu Pajun's description, he does know how serious the consequences will be if Wu Yu is killed willfully. Even the magic weapon forged by Emperor Shui was given to him. Not willing to give in, not willing to give in. Sword Master Xuanhua's eyes turned red. Baishan Mo was also unwilling to give in. His heart moved, and he winked at the two sword masters, then stared at Wu Yu, suddenly smiled, and said, "Okay, you Wu Yu are indeed very good, you can escape death like this, your life is really big. Congratulations, you don't have to die today. However, I am here today to tell you some news. Sister Nangong and I are about to become a Taoist couple. You must be there when the time comes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 404. Wu Yu looked at Baishan Mo coldly. To be honest, he didn't believe it. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The two Xuanhuan sword masters have been practicing for hundreds of years and are the top figures among the 7 Immortals of Shu Mountain. They are indeed strong. Wu Yu admits that he is also afraid of them. But he has never been afraid of Baishan Mo. Even if he falls behind, he definitely believes that this is only temporary. He has extremely strong confidence in this regard. Nangong Wei has never liked him, let alone become a Taoist partner with him. Seeing his cold expression, Baishan Mo smiled and said, "I know you don't believe it, but this day will come. I advise you to be mentally prepared. In addition, there is another very important thing. I ask you, do you want to make a real break with Sword Master Xuanhuan and Sword Master Luo? Do you think that one day, you can step into Shushan again and prove yourself? If you fart, just let it go, don't beat around the bush." Wu Yu sneered, scanning him with eyes like fire. To be honest, if it weren't for the two sword masters here, he would have wanted to fight him right now. Baishan Mo said, "It's very simple. What did these little bastards around you just say? Within 3 years, you will make Shushan regret it? I want to see how you will make Shushan regret it in 3 years, I give you this opportunity. 3 years later, you come to Shushan to challenge me. After that battle, regardless of life or death, the grudges between the two sword masters will be wiped out. Do you dare?" He was extremely passionate, and his words made the sea surge and the world shake. This was his private decision. However, the eyes of Xuanhuan sword master and the two sword masters brightened up. They looked at each other and secretly thought that Baishan Mo was really smart. Wu Yu must be unwilling to be expelled from Shushan. He must be eager to return to Shushan and prove himself, especially to prove himself by defeating Baishan Mo. Therefore, it is impossible for him not to agree. If he agrees, if he dies in the battle, that's his own business. Yanhuang Emperor City can't blame us. Yes, he is now valued by Yanhuang Emperor City. This method is the only way to make him fooled. While the two of them were talking secretly, Huangfu Pajun also quickly said to Wu Yu, "Don't agree to him. With your talent, they will never dare to touch you in the future. There is no need for you to take risks in Shushan. If you accept this challenge, it will be difficult for Yanhuang Emperor City to stand up for you." Of course Wu Yu understands these principles. However, the time is 3 years. Since it's been 3 years, what are you afraid of? He just smiled faintly at Huangfu Pajun, confident, and then in front of all the Yanhuang Immortal army, and even in front of a few hiding ghost cultivators, facing Baishan Mo, he said word by word, "Sure, today 3 years later, I will go to Shushan to share life and death with you." He spoke slowly, but very seriously, very decisively, very calmly, and his words were full of determination. Very good, very courageous. Baishan Mo was ecstatic in his heart, but restrained himself from showing it on his face. He began to imagine that on this day 3 years later, he would finally prove himself to that person. This kind of proof was even more important than Wu Yu's proof. Everyone was in an uproar. Wu Yu left Shushan, but the matter was not resolved. Xuanhuan Juggernaut is still entangled. The relationship with Nangang Wei is still unclear. Sometimes Wu Yu misses her, and sometimes he knows that this is already a thing of the past. Today, Baishan Mo stepped forward and gave him this opportunity out of desperation. When Wu Yu agreed, Baishan Mo walked towards Wu Yu, forcing Huangfu Pajun and others to get out of the way until he stood in front of Wu Yu. The two people's eyes met each other, like heat and ice. A sneer appeared at the corner of Baishan Mo's mouth, and he said softly, "Since I agreed, I will tell the world that there are so many people here today. 3 years from now, I will be waiting for you at the battlefield of life and death. Don't fail to show up when the time comes. Now, it's not me, Baishan Mo, who makes people laugh at me. Don't worry, I will take your head in 3 years," Wu Yu said nonchalantly. He is really not afraid, and he also knows that he still wants to return to Shushan. If something happens, you have to go back and sort it out. When I was kicked out, I was in such a miserable state that I had to go back with dignity. Baishan Mo sneered, his voice was very soft, and he smiled slyly, saying, "I didn't expect you to be so courageous. It really surprised me. Let me tell you a few words at the end. First, Sister Nangang and I am going to the reincarnation cave again soon. It will probably take me 2 or 3 years to go there. If I were not in a hurry to enter the reincarnation cave, I could wait for you in Shushan now, but this is fine. I will give you 3 years to prepare, so as not to waste time. You say it's unfair. In the past 3 years, Sister Nangang and I have had so much time alone, don't envy us. It's the Samsara cave again. This is indeed a bit of pressure." Nangang Wei went to Shushan reincarnation cave and her strength soared. This time, I am afraid there will be another big surge. It is impossible to predict how far they will be in 3 years to welcome Wu Yu in Shushan. This is the fate of others. Wu Yu is neither envious nor afraid. After 3 years of preparation, he can do a lot of things, which may not be worse than Shushan reincarnation cave. Congratulations then, since there will be a chance to do it in 3 years, he is not anxious to do it now. Baishan Mo chuckled, looking handsome and sunny. He pursed his lips and said, "Second point, I will try my best to set the day when Sister Nangang and I form a Taoist couple after the battle. If you don't die, you will still be lucky. Participate and look at the ceremony and process. I can't tell you that it has some inspiration for you, right? Don't do too many daydreams like this. Baishan Mo, you are not a 3-year-old child. Don't talk to me like a 3-year-old child." Wu Yu said the last thing. The matter has been decided, and it is useless to talk nonsense with him too much. See you in 3 years. After he finished speaking, he retreated to the back. Huangfu Pajun knew what he meant, so he stopped in front of Baishan Mo and said to the 3 people from Shushan, "You 3, the 3-year agreement has been confirmed. Since Wu Yu has agreed, please come back first, you 3. Let's go." Xuanhuan Sword Master was already very satisfied with today's itinerary. She also didn't expect Baishan Mo to be of such great help. The 3 of them glanced at Wu Yu one last time, walked away with indifferent expressions. "Xiao Mo, thank you for today. This Wu Yu has a strong temperament, but he does have such a stubborn problem, but you have easily grasped his weakness. After 3 years, it will be up to you, no problem, right?" Li Huo the Sword Master expressed his sincere thanks. Xuanhuan Sword Master said, "Nonsense, he and Wei are going to the reincarnation cave again. This is because the 7 immortals have spent great efforts to build them, especially Xiao Mo. When they come out of the reincarnation cave 3 years later, they will probably be close to the Sword Master. Well, this Wu Yu is inherently deficient and may not receive the greatest attention in Shushan. Not to mention 3 years, even 10 years, he will not be Xiao Mo's opponent." Baishan Mo smiled faintly and said modestly, "You 2 are welcome. Of course, this Wu Yu is really powerful and has endless potential, but I will work hard to give you 2 a satisfactory explanation. Of course, this is also for myself. Do you 2 understand?" Sword Master Xuanhuan nodded and said, "Of course I understand. This kid Wei still can't figure out who is the most suitable person for him." After those 3 people left, many Yanhuang immortal troops surrounded Wu Yu. "Commander, I think this Baishan Mo is really cheap. In 3 years, you must not lose to him. Damn it, I really want to slap him a few times. This guy will definitely spread this matter and create pressure on you, so that you have to go. If you don't go, you will definitely be humiliated, and you will not be able to raise your head to see others in the future." Everyone was talking. Huangfu Pajun said, "Don't talk about it anymore. Wu Yu knows it well, so there is no need to worry. After making this decision today, 3 years later, he will definitely convince the Shushan Immortal sect. Don't say more about this matter first. Come on, let's disperse and start guarding." Although they were concerned about Wu Yu, under the order of Commander Huangfu, everyone dispersed, but their next mood was all about Wu Yu. Nowadays, there are no ghost cultivators coming back at all, so Wu Yu is very relaxed. Most of the time, he directly cultivates quietly and refines the golden elixir. Huangfu Pajun stood beside him and said, "The time is actually quite tight, why don't you go back to Yanhuang Emperor City first? You have made great contributions to this mission, and I guess no more ghost cultivators will come here." 3 years actually came very quickly. Wu Yu shook his head and said, "That's not necessary. Just follow the rules. Aren't you anxious?" "Of course there's no rush." Wu Yu smiled. Although this was a big event, and there was even a certain sensation at the meeting that day, his heart was not fluctuating much. Perhaps he had long expected that there would be a day when he would return to Shushan. Gotta prove something. Now, it's just a time that has been determined. 3 years. Not long, not short. Very good, you are a man. I admire you. I hope you will have a good result in 3 years. Huangfu Pajun won't say much. However, the news does get out. In the next 2 months, Wu Yu was not as impatient as everyone thought, but took his time. Even leisurely and slow progress. The mission ends peacefully. Canghai Daozong took away all the Lanling gold mines and returned to Canghai Daozong, while Wu Yu and others took the Yanhuang warship and returned to Yanhuang Emperor City. However, Wu Yu left the team first. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. He wanted to go back to Dongyuwu Kingdom and the Tongtian Sword Sect to see Presumably he missed his relatives and master more than other disputes. I've been away from home for a long time, so I always go back and take a look. Huangfu Pajun thought that after he returned, he would immediately exert his efforts to reach a higher level and fight for that day 3 years later. I still didn't expect that Wu Yu was still not in a hurry, and might not even return to Yanhuang Emperor City so soon. Okay, let's go first. After watching the Yanhuang warship return to Yanhuang Emperor City and disappear, Wu Yu headed from the East China Sea to Dongyu Kingdom. Standing on the sea, looking at the vast land in front of him, it won't take long to reach Dongyu Kingdom, the place where he was born and raised. It's better to find my sister and let her explain my doubts. I don't know if she will laugh at me after hearing all the troubles I am experiencing now. The things of a cultivator are actually no different from those of ordinary people. They are inseparable from the 7 emotions and 6 desires. They are also inseparable from endless fighting. I just don't know if it will be like this after becoming an immortal. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 405. In the Wu Kingdom of Dongyu, there are vast clouds and mist. Standing in the clouds and looking down, the national destiny is mighty and the world is at peace. Wu Yu was flying with his sword in the clouds, watching countless familiar lands passing under his feet. Entering from the border, those familiar mountains were extremely clear in his memory. Thro remembered that he was young and frivolous, known as a martial arts monster, and led the Suqiao army to sweep across all directions. The heroic spirit at that time was unprecedented. It's a pity that his vision was too low at the beginning, but he has to thank the immortal Haoshan. Without him, Wu Yu would not have been able to come into contact with the real world of immortality. Now, in the immortal realm, he might be regarded as a monster. Looking from a distance, under the clouds and smoke, the mountains and rivers of Dongyu Kingdom are picturesque, and the world is beautiful. Although there are births, old age, illness, and death, the love, hatred are more exciting and may not be as cruel as the immortal way. Although the mortal world is beautiful, it is also easily broken. Wu Yu sighed. Finally, he returned home like an arrow and saw the ancient city of Wudu in Suqiao. Wudu is not old, but the buildings in the immortal world look shabby and dilapidated. However, the mottled city walls are covered with moss and look more like the vicissitudes of history. Wudu Palace is as good as ever. He is very familiar with every palace, every square, and every aisle. He grew up in this palace for more than 10 years of his childhood. Once upon a time, he was the prince of the dynasty. At that time, I thought I was one of the most noble people in the world. But now I realize that the world I once thought was too small. Looking at this palace from the clouds now, my heart is full of mixed emotions. Especially the Zai Hall has changed its name, but its appearance has not changed. Then the bluestone avenue leading to the palace gate fell here. On that snowy winter night, the prison car shook, Wu Yu's tears, etc. came to mind, and there was a strange feeling. To practice Taoism, you also need to remember the beginning. Returning to Wudu, Wu Yu felt a lot more emotions in his heart. The sentiment in his heart seemed to be a kind of Tao. Long live my emperor! Long live! As expected, the sun had just jumped up from the East China Sea at this time, and the sunlight enveloped the palace. Wu Yu was attending the morning court. Wu Yu entered the main hall, and the ministers were discussing state affairs. Wu Yu was wearing a dragon robe, with a serious expression, and handled the events in various places calmly and dignifiedly. She was very serious, and because of the support of Wu Yu and the Tongtian sword sect, the ministers were also loyal. Dedicated. Wu Yu is a wise king who has not appeared in Suqiao for a long time. Even among several countries around her, when the name of the Queen of Suqiao was mentioned, they all gave her a thumbs up. She had never seen Wu Yu, but Wu Yu saw her. She was sitting on the dragon chair. She was immortal, and now she was over 30. Perhaps due to hard work, she was no longer as young and beautiful as before. Wu Yu felt very distressed. Before the morning court ended, one of the ministers said, "Your Majesty, I feel that your Majesty should have the intention of giving birth to a dragon son and continuing the bloodline of my Suqiao royal family. I know this matter well, there is no need to say more." Wu Yu waved his hand gently and announced his withdrawal from the court. The ministers had no choice but to withdraw one by one. Wu Yu sat in this empty golden hall. She waved her hand and asked the waiters around her to withdraw, leaving her alone for a while. Wu Yu stood delicately, looking out of the hall, with a worried look in his eyes, and murmured, "The world of immortality will never end, I wonder how he is doing now." While she missed her, she never missed herself. Wu Yu was in an excited mood. At this moment, he forgot all the Tao that surrounded his heart. All he could feel was the family love that was thicker than water. "Sister," he called out, his voice was hoarse as he hadn't said it for many years. Wu Yu, when Wu Yu was confused, she saw him and thought she was dreaming. She was stunned for a long time before she realized that this was not a dream, so she only took 2 or 3 steps to reach Wu Yu's eyes and threw herself into Wu Yu's arms. Inside. "Why are you back?" Wu Yu's face was full of tears, and he was crying and laughing. Wu Yu was immersed in her joy, and felt an unprecedented warmth in his heart. Only then did he realize that to him, maybe Nangongwei was not the most important person to him in the world, but the sister he had grown up with since childhood. "Nonsense, I am not going to jail for cultivating Taoism, so I can naturally come back," Wu Yu said with a smile. Wu Yu was happy at first, then shed tears. She held Wu Yu's arms with both hands, as if she was afraid that Wu Yu would suddenly run away, and said excitedly and with tears, "But, in the blink of an eye, 10 years have almost passed. It's already been 10 years. Why did you come back so late?" I thought. Wu Yu was shocked. "Yes, from the time I left the Tongtian sword sect to the time I came back now, year after year has passed, and it is now close to 10 years. 10 years, for me, is just a blink of an eye. For Wu Yu, that was a long period of time in life. My sister is old. I'm really worried. When you come back, I will already be a dying old woman." Wu Yu's shoulders twitched and she cried bitterly while holding him. These words roared like never before in Wu Yu's heart. He almost suffocated. He remembered the oath he had made to leave here. In this life, he not only wanted to show himself, but also wanted to live forever. He also didn't want Wu Yu, his only relative, to leave him. There is an ancient saying, when one person achieves enlightenment, chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. He once swore that after attaining Taoism, he would make Wu Yu immortal. If one day she comes and she is really old, how can I be worthy of her? They are siblings, and one of them needs to be laid to rest, while the other one is still young and energetic. Wu Yu didn't make any promises to her. He kept all his words in his heart. In fact, perhaps starting from today, he would have another reason not to give up on his path of spiritual cultivation. In his heart, Wu Yumei is like a treasure. He is afraid to see the aging of this treasure. He is extremely afraid, extremely frightened. Looking at her face, it is true that nearly 10 years have passed, but the years have still left traces on her face. "Tell sister, what have you experienced in the Shushan Immortal sect these years?" Wu Yu clearly felt that he had changed a lot and was more mature and stable. "I'll tell you slowly." Wu Yu held her hand and took her to a mountain peak next to Wudu. This place seemed to be called Shangxian Peak. The place where the Immortals of Haoshan once practiced Taoism. Wu Yu currently has only a few levels of martial arts training. Her foundation is really poor, and her aptitude is considered poor among mortals. However, Wu Yu just refused to accept it. He had already prepared it, and he had prepared a lot of things when he came back this time. Even if there were many things that Wu Yu couldn't absorb, he would at least let Wu Yu enter the realm of qi condensation, at least step into the world of cultivation, and let him have two. Let's talk about 100 years of life. There are many rare immortals in Shu Mountain and Yanhuang Emperor City, and a small number of them are very spiritual and can improve the qualifications of mortals. Wu Yu also learned to refine a pill called life-changing pill, and practiced it. I took thousands of pills, specifically used to improve Wu Yu's qualifications so that she could have a certain foundation in Taoism. Life-changing pills are also very valuable, and are basically useless for Wu Yu's level, but Wu Yu still spends resources on this place. These are all for you. It must be very hard to do this, Wu Yu said worriedly. It's not hard. Wu Yu can't refine the life-changing pill by herself, so Wu Yu needs to help her refine it. This process is relatively long. According to Wu Yu's estimation, it will take a month to help her rush to the qi condensation realm. She can slowly practice on her own. Anyway, Wu Yu planned to leave some resources for her at Feng Xia, and let Feng Xia give them to her according to her level. At the same time, the siblings talked about their nearly 10 years of experience. Wu Yu is relatively simple. Now Suqiao is peaceful, and there are occasional border conflicts. The other party does not dare to fight, and will make concessions as long as they negotiate. As for Wu Yu, he naturally told Wu Yu about the fate of Shushan Immortal Sect and Yanhuang Emperor City. Only then did Wu Yu realize that such a thrilling thing had happened in the years since he had been gone. Sister, do you think the decision I made when I left Shushan was right or wrong, and would it hurt her? Wu Yu asked. Wu Yu thought for a while and said, it will definitely hurt this girl, but what can I say? You can't go against your will, right? If you can't change her, then you have no choice but to leave her. Maybe if we leave, both parties can calm down, right? Then she added, you can't force fate. If there is still fate, there will be a chance to reunite in the future. Aren't you going to return to Shushan in 3 years? We will see what she thinks then. Wu Yu nodded. Sister, haven't you met the person you like in these years? Wu Yu knew that she was still alone until now. In fact, among mortals, at her age, most people were married and had children. Wu Yu smiled helplessly and said, no, I just don't have the urge to need someone's company. I always feel something is wrong with the people I meet. Maybe it's because I have a stronger personality. She seems to be as gentle as water, but in fact, many things are beyond the control of others. My sister, Wu Yu, who wants to marry me, can't be worse than me. If my sister can endure loneliness, one day, I will let you truly enter the immortal world, and let you pursue immortality like me. At that time, your world will be more magnificent. This is Wu Yu's dream. Wu Yu smiled faintly and said, how can the immortal way be so simple? Nothing in this world is difficult except for those who are willing, Wu Yu said firmly. Seeing such a determined look in his eyes, Wu Yu was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, okay, I believe in you, and I am willing to wait for that day to come. From now on, I will also focus on not letting you down. Chatting and talking to her, facing this close relative, Wu Yu basically had nothing to hide, which made him very comfortable. Sometimes an elder sister is like a mother, and Wu Yu is like a mother to him. Her smile and gentle words can make Wu Yu enjoy warmth and peace in his restless heart. At this time, his eyes will be clearer, and the more he can see and understand. /U003 cent /U003e /U003c /cente /U003e. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 406. For a part of the time, Wu Yu would figure it out by himself, and at this time, Wu Yu used the prepared materials to lay out the millions of swords array throughout Wu capital. This million sword formation is the top-level heaven and earth formation currently deployed by Wu Yu. Normally, there is no trace at all. As long as it is activated, there are indeed millions of sword energy flying, and ordinary outsiders cannot enter at all. Compared with the 10,000 sword formation that once guarded the Tongtian sword sect, the million sword formation has been upgraded by more than one level. This is Wu Yu's first time practicing the million sword formation. He had already prepared the materials needed to set up the formation, including treasures and fairies. Among them, he had also drawn the magic formation. He was now quite familiar with it. Although it was his first time, under his precise control, he was still within the estimated time. Within this period, complete the million sword formation. Once activated, Wu Du will be guarded by a million sword formations. After a month passed, the million sword formation was completed, and Wu Yu also successfully rushed to the Qi condensation realm. He had magic power and could practice Taoism. In the future, she herself will gradually improve. After everything was arranged, Wu Yu had to leave. Before leaving, he gave Wu Yu a large number of life-saving talismans and basic and tail talismans to contact him, especially the basic and tail talismans, leaving hundreds of them. If you have anything, even if you just miss me, you can come to me, Wu Yu said. You're so thoughtful. Wu Yu really put a lot of thought into it. In fact, if the distance between the clone and himself was not too far, he would be willing to leave a clone and stay here forever. He can't quite grasp this distance yet, but it can be found that as the clone's strength increases, this distance is increasing. There are still some things that I will leave with my master. If you make progress, he will send them to you, Wu Yu warned. Wu Yu knew that it was easy for him to leave when he left, so she kept smiling and said, "Man, don't look back, go ahead. With this book, I will no longer be the same as before, wanting to understand your current situation, but only can wait. Sister, wait for me." Wu Yu said solemnly. Not waiting for him to come back next time, but waiting for him to bring her a more advanced creation. He thought that what he could bring to Wu Yu was not just the Qi condensation realm. Good. Wu Yu can't control the million sword formation now, so Wu Yu will leave it to Feng Shui. He has built Wu Du into the second base of the Tongtian sword sect. Under Wu Yu's gentle gaze, he penetrated into the clouds and disappeared over Wu Du. Wu Yu stared at the mountain for a long time until sunset. After leaving Wu Du, Wu Yu returned to the Tongtian sword sect. Now, the Tongtian sword sect doesn't know that Wu Yu has returned to Suqiao. In the blink of an eye, he appeared above the Blue Mountains. He first appeared at Sun Wudao's tomb, but it had been replaced by a spiritual energy fountain. The spiritual energy fountain continued to erupt, and the eruption of spiritual energy was even more than before. Uncle Sunday. Wu Yu regarded it as his tomb, and he kowtowed 9 times. Back behind him, Feng Xiya suddenly appeared, and he leaned against a tree, tears filling his eyes. Master Wu Yu stood up, and then half knelt in front of Feng Shui. Apart from Feng Shui, he had not worshipped a second master in these years. Feng Shui has reached the 3rd level of the Golden Cordeo realm and has made some progress. Of course, compared with Wu Yu now, he is indeed far behind. He is his savior and the person who brought him to the immortal path. Although he is not strong, he is indeed the person Wu Yu respects the most. Feng Shui's eyes were red and she helped him up. He stared at Wu Yu and nodded constantly, his body trembling a little. Lan Huayun asked the Immortal sect for news about you. I also went to Donghuang City once to inquire about the situation. I know all about your affairs in the Immortal sect and your subsequent visit to Yanhuang Emperor City, Feng said. Shuya choked up a little. Master. I'm sorry, I was expelled from Shushan and let you down. After all, he was born in Shushan, and he felt regretful. Feng Shui shook his head and said, you don't need to apologize to me. I just want you to have a greater future. As for the thoughts of those who are eliminated, I shouldn't affect you. However, you and I are worthy of being masters and disciples. I can only say that Shushan Immortal sect is not suitable for us. Feng Shui looked at him with some shock and said with emotion, "When I rescued you from the mouth of the snake demon, I didn't expect that you would be the disciple with the lowest qualifications, but you would be the most incredible disciple in my life. I never thought that you would create such a storm in the divine continent, Wu Yu. You are now the top figure in the divine continent." When he heard about Wu Yu's deeds in Donghuang City, he even thought for a while that the Wu Yu people were talking about was not his disciple. Even before this moment, he had doubts, until he saw Wu Yu at this moment. After all, Wu Yu was wearing Yanhuang immortal armor. Once this news came back to the Tongtian sword sect, everyone was shocked. At least 90% of the people couldn't believe it. Lan Huayun also asked for confirmation several times, but she didn't expect that the more he asked for confirmation, the more shocked he became. "Why are you back suddenly? It's important for you to practice, don't let Shushan despise you." Feng Shui looked at him with some distress. Today, he is still on Wu Yu's side. "Come back and have a look." "I'll leave in a while," Wu Yu replied. That night, Feng Shui also had a long conversation all night long. At dawn, Feng Shui summoned everyone from the sword sect and announced Wu Yu's return. Wu Yu saw too many familiar people. Su Yanli, Mo Shishu, Wan Tianyugzhu, Lan Liyulai, Lan Shuiyu, and Qing Mang. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Now, Wu Yu was high up, standing in a position where they could only watch from a distance, so they were all a little restrained. Wu Yu, is that the person in the rumors you, Su Yanli had already condensed the golden elixir. Her face was a little pale and she couldn't look at Wu Yu. Senior sister Su. Wu Yu smiled faintly. This call made Su Yanli know that the rumors were not false. Look at the others. They all looked at themselves excitedly. Even Lan Shuiyu was no longer bothered by the old things in the past, and now looked at him with only respect and admiration. "Junior brother, it's like a dream for us to have someone like you appear around us. It's unbelievable. Now it's a bit unfamiliar, don't be surprised it's still like Wan Tianyugzhu has a senior brother." Once, when Zhang Futu arrived, it was Wu Yu who allowed him to consummate Lan Liyulai. Everyone laughed. With a smile, the distance became closer. "Everyone, Wu Yu won't be able to stay long when he comes back this time. However, he has found some gifts for everyone." He was already ready. In a Sumera bag, there are a large number of magic weapons, elixirs, Taoist arts, talismans, fairy spirits, and treasures. He directly brought huge treasures to the Tongtian sword sect. With this Sumera bag, in just a few years, the overall strength of Tongtian sword sect can be improved, such as Feng Xia, and even have the opportunity to reach the realm of Jindan Dao, which is considered very strong in the vicinity. Of course, Wu Yu also arranged a million sword array here. Controlled by Feng Xia, with this million sword array activated, even if the Zifukanghai realm appears, they may not be able to attack quickly. Wu Yu completely used his own abilities to upgrade the entire Tongtian sword sect. Such resources also benefit every disciple in the sword sect. The deployment of the million sword formation was faster this time, and it only took half a month to complete. Counting the date agreed with Baishan Mo, 3.5 months have passed. In 3 years, it has been 1/10. During this period, Wu Yu basically made no progress and was helping Wu Yu and the Tongtian sword sect, but he was still not in a hurry. After everything was settled, it was time to say goodbye. During these days, Feng Shui, Su Yanli, and the others were always by Wu Yu's side. Master Wu Yu stood outside the Wanjian gate and thanked his master again. A great kindness will never be forgotten. If you have any questions about the sword sect, please come to me at any time with this talisman. No matter where Wu Yu goes in this life, he will always be a member of the Tongtian sword sect, your disciple and your junior brother. This return brought some changes to Wu Yu's mentality. Please get up quickly. Feng Shui quickly helped him up. His eyes were red, and he said, "It is my greatest blessing that I can bring you to the path of immortality in this life. You don't owe me anything. What you have done over the years has long made up for the debt. From now on, I will chase you bravely. Although we people are walking slower on the road to immortality, we will not give up on cultivating the Tao." Ye Wu Yu nodded. He gave them one last look. Su Yanli, she was still so cold and it was difficult to smile on her face, but now her eyes were also moist. I still remember the first time I saw her flying on a crane, like a fairy from heaven. That was one of the most beautiful images of immortality in Wu Yu's mind. Now you are like an immortal, and I am like a mortal, but I will not give up. Junior brother Su Yanli still managed a smile. No problem, I'll wait for you at the front. Farewell. Bon voyage, the people of Tongtian sword sect said in unison. Wu Yu flew into the sky, looked at the blue mountains at his feet, and took one last look at these former people. He seemed to have great pride in his heart, and at this moment he let out a long and joyful roar that shook the mountains and rivers thousands of miles away. Tao, everyone can chase it? He told himself that he was just walking a little faster now. After returning, he felt much more at peace in his heart. When he looked at the vast fairy road ahead, he felt fierce enthusiasm and fighting spirit in his heart. Flames erupted from his body, and his whole body was like a scorching sun, darting through the clouds, crossing thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, heading towards that place. Go away from the huge Yanhuang Emperor city suspended in the sky. He is coming back. This time we return to Yanhuang Emperor city, it's time to sprint. They have entered the reincarnation hole and will rise again. I have almost caught up with them. In the past 3 years, I cannot lose to them. The Yanhuang Emperor city is surrounded by clouds and mist, like a land in the sky. Seeing the Yanhuang Emperor city, Wu Yu was even more arrogant, and the fighting blood in his heart surged after a short period of silence. After returning, he discovered that he had become a famous figure known to everyone in the Yanhuang Emperor city. The Battle of the East China Sea, the 3-year agreement, has spread throughout the world. There will be an update tonight. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 407. When Wu Yu set foot in the Yanhuang Emperor city and flew towards the inner city above the sky in the outer city, he attracted many realizations along the way. Now, he seems to be a famous person in the entire divine continent. Wearing a flaming yellow fairy armor, his eyes are like the scorching sun, and his face is stern. For such a young man, he is not a mortal at first sight. Even if he does not have so many names, he will be so conspicuous among the crowd with his body that transcends demons. The outer city is the place where information flows the fastest in the entire divine continent. Ascetics from all over the world, representing the major sects and major forces, gather here to collect intelligence. This young man is Wu Yu. He performed a mission in the East China Sea and killed 3 strong men at the 4th level of the Kanghai realm of Zi Mansion. They were all vicious ghost cultivators. This must be the former Xuanhuan abandoned disciple. It is said that he was only in his 20s. Xuanhuan actually let go of such a talented person. It is indeed. Shu Mountain has Baishan Mo and Nangong Wei, so it is true that there is no room for Wu Yu. In the Yanhuang Emperor city, he has a world of his own. However, it is said that he and Bei Shanmo agreed that in a life and death battle, it is possible that in 3 years, only one of these 2 outstanding young heroes will exist. The abandoned disciple returns and a life and death battle involves a love triangle, love, hate, and hatred. It's such a great drama. I have a feeling that that day will be very sensational. It is said that Baishan Mo received the inheritance from his ancestor Qingming Sword Emperor and was accepted as a disciple by the 7 Immortals of Shu Mountain. Wu Yu wants to compete with him unless he is accepted as a disciple by the city lord and the emperor commander. After all, Shu Mountain gave up on him. I think Baishan Mo has more chances to win. After all, it was Baishan Mo who proposed this agreement. All kinds of discussions along the way focused on myself. Wu Yu had a premonition. 3 years, we'll see, he smiled faintly. In my memory, the countless rolling characters that day are still burning like flames. Shusan, I have to go back. He did not go to the inner city first, but went to the Yungziao Dharma Hall. I still have a lot of ghost cultivator stuff on hand, which I want to sell to Zhang Tian. When Zhang Tian saw him, he immediately smiled and welcomed Wu Yu into the Yungziao Dharma Hall. He said, "Brother Wu is really making a big fuss now. He is killing everyone in the East China Sea. It is estimated that his current strength is close to that of 1,000 men. Come on, if you reach this level at such a young age, there won't be more than 3 in the entire Yanhuang Emperor City." Wu Yu smiled at the compliment. He also got straight to the point and said, "I went to the East China Sea and brought back some items for ghost cultivation. Brother Zhang, will you accept them?" "Accept it, of course I accept it." It was another business deal, and the key was to upgrade his relationship with Wu Yu, so Zhang Tian was naturally positive. Wu Yu basically sold all the things on Keng Shueqing Feng and Bai Shuangsha, leaving behind a small part that was useful to him, such as some magic circles for non-ghost cultivators, some elixirs and talismans. Zhang Tian counted carefully and finally gave a price. Wu Yu did the math and found that after cleaning up the debris, there were about 3,100 Kanghai Yuankai pills left, equivalent to 3 million merit. So many monastic resources are enough for him to not have to go out to perform tasks for a long time. A windfall. "Do you need a magic weapon?" Zhang Tian asked. Wu Yu thought for a moment and said, "I won't read it for now. After all, Yanhuang Optimus Prime is enough. Now he doesn't even have perfect control over Yanhuang Optimus Prime, and he doesn't need other magic weapons. The key is that he feels that now that the 3rd level of the Vajra indestructible body has been achieved, the most important thing next is to improve his realm, at least to upgrade himself to the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm. He doesn't want to choose between magic weapons, Taoist magic, talismans, etc. for the time being. Time was limited, and he felt that he needed a breakthrough. After bidding farewell to Zhang Tian, Wu Yu returned to Kishan camp in a low-key manner. The Yanhuang Immortal army from Kishan camp had been waiting for him for a long time. "Commander Wu," everyone greeted him. They spent the night cleansing Wu Yu's body, and the next day Wu Yu went into seclusion, focusing entirely on the improvement of the Tao. "After a trip home, I have actually grown a bit. Now I am more focused on drawing magic circles and refining elixirs than I imagined." After about half a month, Wu Yu felt that the harvest was huge. He estimated that it would not be long before he could sprint directly to the 10th level of the Golden Core realm. He was about to take the next step when suddenly Fang Kaoken and others came outside his residence. There must be something going on. Wu Yu stopped what he was doing, and when he came out, he found that it was Zhang Xuanhuan who was looking for him. "Wu Yu, long time no see." Zhang Xuanhuan smiled loudly and walked up quickly. After Fang Kaoken and the others resigned, Zhang Xuanhuan said, "I just came back from a small mission, and I heard about your activities during this period. I don't feel any pressure at all." Wu Yu shook his head. Zhang Xuanhuan patted his shoulder and said, "That's good. No matter what the outside world thinks, any one of us in Yanhuang Emperor City will support you. You know, when you go to Shushan, you represent our Yanhuang Emperor City. Come to when the time comes, I will accompany you there to help you." Wu Yu's eyes lit up. He was somewhat grateful to Zhang Xuanhuan. He was the one who decided to follow him to the Shushan Immortal sect for the first time. Back then, Wu Yu was isolated and helpless. This time when he went back, at least Zhang Xuanhuan would support him, and maybe there would be more people. He is not alone. Thank you, Commander Zhang. I will never forget it, Wu Yu said seriously. Don't say that, it's a foreign policy. We are all brothers when we come to Yanhuang Emperor City, so there is no need to be polite. Zhang Xuechuan is a forthright person and speaks very directly. Wu Yu smiled, he was indeed being polite. No matter what, Zhang Xuechuan is actually better than Zhang Tian. After all, he is from the Yanhuang Immortal Army and is in his own camp. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Zhang Xuechuan continued, I came to interrupt your practice today, but I actually came to tell you something. Please tell me. Zhang Xuechuan said, in a few days, the Yan War in Yanhuang Emperor City will begin. Do you understand the Yan War and the Imperial War? Wu Yu had never heard of it, so he shook his head. Zhang Xuechuan smiled and said, you have only been here for a short time, and sometimes you should have more contact with other people. Even everyone in your Kishan camp knows about the Yanzhan and the Huangzhan. This matter was indeed not recorded in the information that Centurion gave him last time. For example, there is no record of the Yanhuang warships. Since Wu Yu didn't know, Zhang Xuechuan explained to him, every 10 years or so, sometimes 10 years, sometimes more than 20 years, when the city lord is free, he will order the Yan War and the Imperial War. The Yanzhan is to select the 32 strongest centurions, and then eliminate them through pairwise duels, and finally select the 3 top centurions. The principle of the Imperial War is the same, but it consists of 32,000 commanders, and the 3 strongest commanders are finally determined. You are a centurion and can participate in the Yan War. Wu Yu recently wanted to retreat to attack the realm and be promoted to the 10th level of the Golden Core realm. Therefore, he was not very interested in this kind of battle similar to the 10,000 swords immortal battle. It was probably just a ranking, just honor. He had limited time and was about to shake his head. Zhang Xuechuan asked with a smile, aren't you curious about what rewards Yan will get if he competes with the top 3? I'd like to hear the details. Since Zhang Xuechuan came to tell him in person, he had to respect the other party and let him finish. Zhang Xuechuan said, the merit rewards alone are not cheap. As for Yanzhan, the first place will be rewarded with 5 million merits, the second place will be rewarded with 3 million merits, and the third place will be rewarded with 1 million merits. The top 8 reward 500,000 for meritorious service. First place, the strongest centurion, 5 million meritorious deeds. This is indeed a lot. Wu Yu has been killing in the East China Sea for such a long time, and has gained a total of about 3 million merits. Moreover, the top 3 will be determined from the top 32. In theory, if you want to win the championship, you only need to defeat 5 opponents. 5 battles can be completed in half a month, so it's not too much of a waste of time. Wu Yu was a little moved after hearing this. Of course, he knew that there were many centurions in Yanhuang Emperor City, and it might not be easy to be the strongest one. For example, Qin Fui was on par with Baishan Mo and the others. If she participated, Wu Yu should not be able to win first place. Moreover, there are other genius-level centurions in Yanhuang Emperor City. Zhang Xuechuan smiled faintly and said, you have some money now, but actually these 5 million merits are not too tempting. All those who participated in the Yanzhan and Emperor Zhan did not go there for this merit. But for another reward. Wu Yu was startled. 5 million merits, isn't that tempting? Zhang Xuechuan raised his head, looked at a certain direction in the inner city, and said with emotion, the biggest forbidden area in the inner city is the city lord's mansion where the city lord usually stays. Even the generals are not allowed to enter without receiving a summons order city lord's palace. So, the top 3 in Yanzhan and the top 3 in Hehuangjian, a total of 6 people, will have the opportunity to live in the city lord's mansion for half a year. During this period, they can freely ask the city lord any confusion about the Taoism. Our Yanhuang city lord is the #1 person in the divine continent, and the world the most powerful person, the person closest to becoming an immortal. His achievements on the road are far inferior to those of the 7 immortals of Xuanhuan. Do you understand what I mean? In fact, for nearly 20 years, the city lord did not even have a battle with Yan Zhan. The emperor has fought, so for this opportunity, all the centurions actually want to try their luck. No genius in Yanhuang Emperor City will miss such the most precious opportunity to get half a year of guidance from the city lord. That is it's everyone's dream, and there are only 6 places in more than 10 years, which is really precious. The first person in Shenzhou. His advice? Wu Yu has never really seen this kind of person. Of course he has met Luo Bin, but she basically won't give him any guidance in this regard. Wu Yu has been practicing so far and is still a little confused. If he can be qualified to stay in the city lord's mansion for half a year, this will indeed be a great thing. After all, Baishan Mo can enter the cave of reincarnation, but he has no one to guide him and has to cross the river by feeling the stones. Believe me, if the city lord helps, if the city lord is willing to support you, you will never die in Xuanhuan. On that day 3 years later, Zhang Xuechuan stared at him. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 408. I've decided. Wu Yu weighed it in his mind and made a decision. It's just a few battles, it won't waste much time, and it's a battle with the top centurion in Yanhuang Emperor City. The rewards of this kind of battle may not be lower than those of fighting with the black and white Zhuangxia. Even better. After all, the 32 top centurions here are much more tyrannical than the black and white Zhuangxia. Many of them may even have the fighting power to compete with the 1,000 captains. It is estimated that if Qin Fui is still at the 2nd level of the Kanghai realm in Zifu, it may not be easy for her to win. After all, Yan Zhan does not consider whether he is a genius, but only looks at combat ability. Even a 200-year-old centurion will not be able to win. If he can participate in the war, then he may not be weaker than Qin Fui. There are restrictions on the Yan war. If you exceed the 4th level of Zifu Kanghai realm and reach the 5th level, you cannot participate in the Yan war and can only participate in the Imperial war. In the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, from the 4th to the 5th level, and from the 7th level to the 8th level, there will be a relatively large threshold, which is difficult for most people to cross. This is why Yanhuang Emperor City, Xuanhuan Immortal Sect, etc. are all in Zi Mansion. The reason why there are 3 identities in Kanghai realm. Xuanhuan is the Earth Sword level, Heavenly Sword level, Xuanhuan Sword Master. In the Yanhuang Emperor City, there are commanders of hundreds, commanders of thousands, and generals. If you can stay in that city lord's mansion for half a year, not to mention what guidance the city lord can give you, even if you get to know this person, the benefits will be endless. Most people would not be able to meet the Yanhuang City Master. The Lord of Yanhuang City is number 1 in the world. I choose to participate. How can I become one of the 32 people? There are so many centurions here, how can they become one of the 32 seated players? This is a big question. Zhang Xuechuan said, this depends on your efforts. I'm not sure whether you have met the qualifications to participate. Judging from the fact that you killed the 2 black evil men in succession, it should be barely enough. Follow me to Yan Palace. In the past 2 days, Yan Zhan and Huang Zhan have signed up at Yan Palace. There are 3 assessors there, namely General Qin, General Bone and General Murong. You need to conquer 3 of them and give 3 to them. You give a rating, and if you are among the 32 people with the highest ratings, you will be selected. Wu Yu understood. It is said that General Murong has 40 points, and the other 2 have 30 points. The total is 100 points. Each person gets the ratings of the 3 generals, and the sum is the final score. Then the 30 with the highest final score will be announced on a day. If the 2 have the same score and are both in the 30s, they will probably have to fight each other before they can truly become candidates for Yan Zhan. I'll take you to Yan Palace. Yan Palace has been very busy these 2 days after Wu Yu made his choice. Jiang Xuanhuan was very satisfied. The two left the Qishan camp and quickly headed towards the Yan Palace. As expected, the closer they got to the Yan Palace, the more crowded they became. Many Yanhuang immortal troops were surrounding them, and they did not complete any tasks just to watch the fun. There are tens of thousands of Yanhuang immortal army inside and outside. Fortunately, they were out of the way and any centurion who wanted to sign up could just go in. When Wu Yu arrived, a team of several hundred people lined up in front, all of them centurions from the Kanghai realm of Zi Mansion. At the front of the team is the place where everyone is watching for the assessment. There are many captains there to maintain order. The three old men sitting on the high platform in the middle are probably General Qin, General Bone and General Murong. You line up here. Jiang Xuechuan brought him here and prepared to go inside. Wu Yu took a look. He knew General Bone. He had met him last time. General Qin was slightly younger. His long black hair was very neat, with two white hairs in the middle. His face was like an eagle, calm and majestic. Wu Yu remembered that he had heard of him, and he probably was Qin Fui's adoptive father. Another General Murong is sitting in the middle, obviously the strongest one. He is an old man with gray hair and many wrinkles on his face. He looks very old, but his eyes are also very cold and stern. With him sitting here, even if there are tens of thousands of Yanhuang immortal troops did not dare to make any noise at this time. After Wu Yu lined up, centurions continued to join him, and many people saw him at this time. Look, this is Wu Yu. He also came to participate in the Yan War. It is said that he killed 2 ghost cultivators at the 4th level of the Kanghai realm in Zifu in succession. He is obviously very strong. He might have a chance to participate in the Yan War. Probably, it's another strong competitor. Many people put the realization on Wu Yu and discussed it with the people next to them. Wu Yu calmed down and concentrated. Suddenly feeling a bit cold behind him, Minglong coughed a few times. Wu Yu looked back and saw that a few people away from him, Luo Bin suddenly appeared here. She still looked defeated and covered herself tightly. Yan Shishi, those eyes looked at Wu Yu, making Wu Yu instantly immersed in them, as if he was in a peaceful sea. Why is she here? Wu Yu was shocked. She was actually waiting in line, obviously wanting to participate. However, the strength she is showing now is the 3rd level of Zifu Kanghai realm. Minglong also said depressedly, isn't this guy hiding his identity and strength because he is afraid that the city lord will see through her? Why does she still dare to enter the city lord's mansion? Minglong had said before that it was estimated that there were only 2 people in the entire Yanhuang Emperor city who could see through its true form, and that was the city lord and the emperor commander. If she was dormant in the Yanhuang Emperor city, she should stay away from these 2 people. I guess they're here to join in the fun, Wu Yu thought to himself. After all, there were not many people in the 4th level of Zifu Kanghai realm before and after his team. It was obvious that most of the people in line came to join in the fun and see how many points they could get. With her temperament and status, she won't be so bored. Although I don't know why, I can be sure that this little female dragon wants to enter the city lord's mansion, Minglong said firmly. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Since he came, Wu Yu took the initiative to let the people behind him line up first. He is not so afraid of this fairy beast now. When he came to Luo Bin, he said generously, Commander Luo also wants to participate in the Yan War. Luo Bin glanced at him and said, I have nothing to do, come and sign up to try. Oh, Wu Yu nodded, thinking that she would not tell him the truth. This woman really has a lot of secrets. At this time, Jiang Xuechuan just arrived at his friend, the captain of the 1,000 men, and suddenly saw Luo Bin. He was also surprised for a moment, and hurried over and said, Luo Bin, why are you here? Based on his understanding of Luo Bin, He also felt that she was not strong enough and would not join in the fun. "Let's challenge her," Luo Ben said indifferently. Wu Yu noticed that the snow-white long hair on her shoulders was still crystal clear. "Okay, then I look forward to your performance." Jiang Xuanhuan couldn't care less about her, so he smiled and returned to his own position. Luo Ben's face was flat. She didn't want to talk. Wu Yu greeted her, but didn't take the initiative to communicate with her, but focused on the assessment in front. "Young man, think of a way to seduce her quickly, don't let the fat meat fly away." Ming Long remembered to turn around. Wu Yu was too lazy to pay attention to her. She lied every day. There were bursts of drums coming from the front. When he got closer, Wu Yu finally saw clearly that there was a war drum in front of the three generals. The war drum was black and gold, violent and rough, with thousands of magic weapons array on it, very solid. Each challenger directly attacked the war drum with magic weapons, and the three generals scored based on the movement of the war drum and other aspects. This is the Yanhuang war drum, which is also a very good magic weapon. It can be used with the Yanhuang warship. It is said that after mastering it, beating the drum will have a powerful effect of breaking the enemy. This is an offensive magic weapon. Now the centurions are not the masters of the Yanhuang war drum, so beating the drum will certainly not produce offensive power. Otherwise, with so many Yanhuang immortal soldiers around, a drum sound will kill many people. The Yanhuang war drum is said to be an indiscriminate attack with great lethality. Of course, it is not easy to make the war drum make a sound. Most of the people who went up one by one could only slightly beat the war drum, and then the score reported by General Murong at the end was basically few of them over 60 points. Wu Yu was watching carefully. Every time a score was announced, everyone made a noise. Converting strength into a number is indeed a bit cruel, but it is a very accurate judgment of the centurions. This method also allows many centurions to clearly understand their own level. Therefore, Wu Yu was also very curious, how many points he could get. Not only him, but also those who are queuing here now are feeling a little bit nervous, a bit like the exams in the palace when he was a child, learning history, politics, and governance. At that time, Wu Yu failed all other things except for his military talent. Suddenly, in the team in front, Wu Yu saw Qin Fuwei. He hadn't noticed her before. Qin Fuwei was still dressed in that dazzling way. With her beauty, she was naturally the focus of everyone's eyes all the time. When it was her turn, there was a loud noise, and everyone gathered here. Because the general was present, they didn't dare to shout loudly, but they couldn't wait. "Hate it, so many people are watching, I will be nervous." Qin Fuwei threw a coquettish eye at everyone, and immediately made the Yanhuang Xianjun present feel numb all over. "Fuwei, stop making trouble, be serious." General Qin on the left coughed a few times, his face full of embarrassment. "Okay, Daddy, you have to give me all 30 points, otherwise I will ignore you." Qin Fuiying laughed, which made General Qin more embarrassed, and smiled at the two colleagues next to him. However, Qin Fuiying did not disappoint him. She rushed out with a long whip in her hand and hit the Yanhuang war drum. Suddenly, the war drum made a harsh sound, and most of the magic arrays on it suddenly started to work, bursting out with strong light, rushing to the sky, shaking the wind and clouds. Not bad, it has reached the third level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, but its Purple Mansion Yuanli is much higher than most of the fourth level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm. It was the first time that General Murong praised. When the final scores came out, General Murong gave 38 points, General Gu gave 29 points, and General Qin gave 27 points to avoid suspicion. A total of 94 points. Wu Yu didn't know the situation before he arrived, but the score of 94 points was appropriate for the top 32. In fact, at this time, Qin Fuiying was the favorite to lock in the top 3 of the Yanzhen. After a while, it was Wu Yu and Luo Ben's turn. When Wu Yu came on stage, everyone was looking forward to it. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 409. This kind of score evaluation is simple and crude, but it is also particularly curious. Moreover, it does not rely on realm assessment, but directly measures a certain degree of attack power. However, in fact, this score does not necessarily reflect the outcome of the battle, it is only a preliminary judgment. Historically, those with low scores have often defeated those with high scores in subsequent battles. No matter what, when Wu Yu took the first step, many Yanhuang immortal army present were staring at him. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. How many points can he score? It's estimated to be 80, maybe even higher. I can't see it. The battle in the East China Sea should be a reason for the onlookers to brag. Wu Yu was able to kill 2 ghost cultivators, probably because the 2 ghost cultivators themselves were not very good. Anyway, there are all kinds of discussions. Qin Fui did not leave. Now she stood beside her with her charming eyes and said, "Little brother Wu, you have to behave well." That charming style is also the most beautiful scenery outside Yan Palace. The eyes of the 3 generals all fell on Wu Yu. Among them, the General Bone was the most familiar with Wu Yu. He was the one who dealt with Wu Yu when he entered the inner city a few days ago. Recently, he heard that this young man was making trouble again, and he became curious and asked, "Wu Yu, are you sure?" Wu Yu took a deep breath. No matter what, he still had to get into the list of 32 people, otherwise he couldn't hope to be in the top 3. He sacrificed Yanhuang Optimus Prime and held it in his hand. Qin Fui didn't use all her strength. I used my normal strength and didn't use immortal ape transformation or violent techniques. If I can't get in, it really means that I can't participate in this fierce battle. 32 people fought, and finally the 3 were decided. Almost a 1 in 10 chance. When he held the Yanhuang Optimus Prime, the Yanhuang Optimus Prime trembled violently and made a harsh roar. His whole body and the Yanhuang Optimus Prime were ablaze with golden flames. For a moment, everyone's attention gathered. Wu Yu suddenly dodged, kicked off his legs, and left the ground. Suddenly, even the ground in the inner city trembled violently. Such physical strength. Far superior to monsters, the 3 generals looked at each other in horror. Boom! Yanhuang Optimus Prime hit the Yanhuang war drum with a loud roar, and the magic arrays on the war drums all shone, and the light soared into the sky. Under the huge impact of Wu Yu's physical body, the momentum this time was almost as strong as Qin Fuhuang did that just now. If there is, it is only the difference between the physical strength and the opponent's pure purple mansion energy. The sound of the war drums lingers for a long time. When everyone saw this movement, their faces turned pale with surprise. Looking at the cold and courageous young man holding a long stick, they felt that every move he made was filled with peerless domineering, especially his scorching eyes. It's hard to look at him. Very good, General Bone couldn't help but praise. Some time ago, Wu Yu fought with his grandson Gu Xian, and his fighting power was far from what it is now. There was no doubt that he knew that Wu Yu had improved. And the progress is not small. When practicing together, you chase each other, and sometimes being fast is a quick way to get rid of other people. The eyes of General Qin and General Murong also lit up. Among them, General Qin said, "He is indeed someone who even the heavenly Jade Sword Immortal wants to take as his disciple." Not only them, but many of the Yanhuang Immortal army present, many of whom had seen Wu Yu's methods for the first time today, immediately put away their previous gossip and couldn't help but cast awe-inspiring glances at this former Shushan abandoned disciple. The last 3 generals scored, with a total score of 91 points. Although he is not as tall as Qin Fui, Wu Yu is already very satisfied. After all, he only relies on the 3 elements of Danyuan, Yanhuang Optimus Prime and the indestructible body of Vajra, without using any of the attack power from the mysterious magic of heaven and earth. According to his estimation, if it was the immortal ape transformation, violence technique, plus the attack magic weapon array on the Yanhuang Optimus Prime, killing with all his strength, then his score would definitely exceed Qin Fu's. Of course, for those who generally score over 90, it is estimated that many of them have not really used their full strength. After all, you have to save some for the battle. Judging from the current situation, there are only a dozen people with scores above 90. Although it is not over yet, Wu Yu estimates that the problem is not big. Congratulations, congratulations, Jiang Xuanhuan had such a powerful centurion under his command. He also had a bright face and was very proud in front of several friends. In fact, he was the gain he deserved. After all, he was the commander who lured Wu Yu into the inner city as soon as he entered Yanhuang Emperor City. With this score, I dare say that you will definitely be able to participate in Yanzhan, Jiang Xuanhuan said firmly. Several captains nearby also laughed and said, if you can't make it at 91, then who will? I estimate that you will have a chance at 85, but you have to participate in 1 or 2 qualifying matches first. When they were talking and exaggerating about Wu Yu saw that Luo Bin was already standing where he was. He couldn't help but concentrate on her and put all his attention on her. After all, her many mysteries made Wu Yu very interested. It's curiosity. What exactly does she want to do, with her character? Since she appears here, she is probably here for one of the 3 places. A captain next to him asked, Jiang Xuanhuan, this woman seems to be a centurion under you. Why don't you see her with her true appearance? Her eyes and hair are obviously very rare. Jiang Xuanhuan said helplessly, this is Luo Bin's own wish, and I can't control it. While they were chatting, Luo Bin was ready. Wu Yu had read her information, which showed that she had been practicing Taoism for more than 60 years. She had practiced Taoism in Yanhuang Emperor City for more than 60 years and had reached the 3rd level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm. She was not considered a genius, so Luo Bin did not receive as much attention as Wu Yu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 410. Wu Yu thought about it and decided to participate in the flame battle. Then he had to focus on the flame battle. It was said that the list would be announced in 2 days, and then there would be 5 days for the qualification battle. If he did not participate in the qualification battle, the battle would start in 7 days. Then basically there would be a battle every 2 days. In about half a month, the top 3 in the flame battle and the emperor battle would be revealed. The time and rhythm were quite fast. Half a month could pass in the blink of an eye by just retreating and tempering the golden elixir. Time was tight, and he knew basically nothing about all the possible opponents. He and his brothers and sisters from the Kishan camp gathered together. He was surrounded in the middle. Everyone sat on a few steps. Wu Yu thought for a while and asked, among the centurions, how many talented people from Yanhuang Emperor City are there like Qin Fuwei? Some older Yanhuang Immortal Army members are more knowledgeable about this. One of them is called Meng Yao, who is also one of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm of Kishan camp. He has been in Yanhuang Emperor City for a long time, but he has not been in the Yanhuang Immortal Army for a long time. However, he knows everything about the internal affairs of Yanhuang Emperor City. He said, among the centurions, the most outstanding ones recently are jokingly called the 4 geniuses. There are barely 3 who can compare with Qin Fuwei, and Qin Fuwei is one of the 4 geniuses. These 4 should all participate in the Yanzhan. It is said that they have been preparing for the Yanzhan for many years. Before the Yanzhan, they all rushed to the 3rd level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, but because they all have extraordinary qualifications and backgrounds, they can basically sweep all the centurions. Wu Yu was shocked. He knew that Qin Fuwei had the inheritance of Shenfeng Deiji. In terms of qualifications and capital, She was basically the same as Nangang Wei. I didn't expect that there were 3 people who could compare with Qin Fu Wei among the centurions in Yanhuang Emperor City. Not to mention those old centurions who have practiced for hundreds of years. Qin Fu Wei and the other 4 alone are difficult to deal with, and Luo Ben must occupy a place. Wu Yu deeply realized that this Yanzhen might not be as smooth as he imagined. Introduce the other 3 to me, so that I can be mentally prepared, Wu Yu said with a smile. Don't worry, Commander Wu. The remaining 3 are all over 30. I think they are not as talented as you, Wu Tianyu said. They are just over 30, which is not very different from those in their 20s. In fact, at their level, the time of cultivation is still very important. When they cultivate for 100 years, they will be able to compete with the limit, such as the current state of the 7 Immortals of Shushan and the Lord of Yanhuang City. No matter how old they are, basically those who can sweep the 4th level in the 3rd level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm are not ordinary people. Menyao continued at this time, except Qin Fueo, who is a woman, the other 3 are men. The 3 of them have a very good relationship and call themselves the 3 young masters of Yanhuang. They often appear in the outer city, so their reputation outside is even greater than Qin Fueo. After all, they are also young and energetic, and they shine a little more. It is precisely because each of them has strong capital that the 3 of them respect each other and often mix together. Wu Yu listened to him carefully. The first one is the son of General Murong. General Murong had a son when he was old, so he used almost all his resources and gains in this life to cultivate his son. However, his son is also very competitive. I have met this person several times. He is well educated, gentle, and elegant, and has almost no temper. He has a high degree of self-cultivation. It is estimated that General Murong disciplined him strictly and did not allow him to mess around. In Shenzhou, this person has a very good reputation and is the synonym of the youngest generation of Yanhuang Emperor City. There are about 3 generations in Shenzhou now. From the perspective of cultivation, those who have cultivated for 50 years before are considered a generation. Wu Yu, Nangang Wei, Qin Fu Wei, and others are all considered this generation. 50 to 100 years of cultivation is another generation. Shenzhen Jiao and others are at this level. After 100 years, many cultivators will find it difficult to break through, such as Zhang Xuanhuan, or Xuanhuan Sword Saint and the generals of the Yanhuang Immortal Army. Of course, if they have a breakthrough, they can still make progress, but it is difficult for them to make great progress. Later on, Menyao mentioned that the son of General Murong was named Murong Su. General Murong entered an ancient ruin a few years ago and found the inheritance of an ancient Taoist practitioner Shenting Jinren. He only knew that he was old, so he directly passed the inheritance to the young Murong Su. Murong Su has the Taoist weapon Mixed Thunder Dao Sword of Shenting Jinren, and it is said that he can use it once or twice. Once he uses this Mixed Thunder Dao Sword, to be honest, among the centurions, Qin Fu Wei is probably not his opponent. General Murong is really generous to his son. Wu Yu knows that Baishan Mo also has a Taoist weapon, but he probably can't use it yet. Tao weapons are super treasures that can only be possessed by the level of the 7 Immortals of Shushan. Of course, their power exceeds that of magic weapons by several levels. Even super spiritual magic weapons are different from Taoist weapons. If he can really use the Mixed Thunder Dao Sword, Wu Yu is really not sure if he can compete with him. Although Murong Su is a few years older than him, if Wu Yu had a few more years, he would definitely be much stronger than the current Murong Su. However, in this world of cultivation, the strong are strong and the weak are weak. When the 2 fight, who cares how old you are now? The so-called 3 young masters of Yanhuang, Murong Su is the leader. Since this is the strongest one, the 2 behind are probably more normal. Menyao continued, the second one is named, Zhangzhigzun. Zhangzhigzun is not the son of any general, but a peerless genius raised by several mortals on the South China Sea. It is said that when he was born, there were strange phenomena in the world. At that time, a Yanhuang immortal army happened to be on a mission there, so he brought the baby back to Yanhuang Emperor City. More than 30 years have passed, and now Zhang Zhigzun has become a legend here. Not only was he accepted as a direct disciple by the General Yugu, who is the #1 magic array in Yanhuang Emperor City, but it is said that he also has the inheritance of the ancient Qianzhen Taoist. This inheritance was carried by him since birth. It is said that when his mother was pregnant, she still went out fishing and accidentally ate a seabed pearl. The seabed pearl is probably the inheritance of the Qianzhen Taoist. Zhang Zhigzun is best at the mechanism magic array. He can make many mechanisms. Some time ago, in order to participate in the Yan War, he seemed to go out to find the mechanism left by the Qianzhen Taoist in time. This time he returns, he should have a harvest. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Wu Yu originally thought that the remaining two would be more normal, but from what he heard, Zhang Zhigzun is also a powerful enemy with a lot of uncertainty. In this case, the last one can be ranked with them, and he is definitely not an ordinary person. The competitors this time, just on the young side, there are Luo Bin, Qin Fuhui, Murong Su, Zhang Zhigzun, and the last one. There are 6 people here alone. The last one is called Li Kahai. Li Kahai is the adopted son of the Jinluan general. It is said that he was found in the underground lava. He has a hot temper, but he hides it deeply. Until now, no one knows his true strength. I don't know if he has any inheritance. Anyway, the other 2 are willing to be with him, which should also show that he is very good. The 3 young masters of Yanhuang, the 4 geniuses. No wonder Yanhuang Emperor City is the first in Shenzhou. Just Wu Yu's generation is full of talents and emerges in an endless stream. This is still among the centurions. Who knows what kind of monsters there are among the 1,000-man captains. Of course, if Wu Yu had not been driven out of Shushan Xianmen, Shushan would have Nangong Wei, Baishan Mo, and him. In the previous generation, there was Shenzhen Jiao. Wu Yu asked Mengyao to tell him the information of several centurions. These were all people who had practiced Taoism for more than 100 years. They would not be easier to deal with than the 4 geniuses. It can be said that to become one of the 32 people, everyone's combat power has reached the peak of the 4th level of the Purple Mansion Kanghai realm, or even exceeded it. This will be several fierce fights. For the 3 places, in order to get the city lord's guidance, it is estimated that even if the 3 young masters of Yanhuang meet them, they will probably fight to the death without mercy. After all, it is obvious that everyone has made a lot of preparations for Yanzhan. For example, Qin Fuwei, after the mission in Yungzi City, went back to retreat directly, and did not come out until these 2 days. Zhang Zhigzun even went out to find a mechanism and returned recently. The battle between genius and strong is about to break out. Among them, Wu Yu was almost certain that the most terrifying Luo Bin had already occupied a place, and if Wu Yu and Luo Bin met before the 8-4, he would most likely lose this opportunity. He also knew that whoever met Luo Bin would definitely lose. 2 days later, the Yan battle list was announced. 32 people were arranged on the left and right. 2 adjacent people fought, and 16 people won. Then 2 adjacent people fought again, and 8 people won. Then 2 adjacent people fought again to decide the top 4, and then they fought again to decide the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. The 3rd and 4th place competed for the last one, and the 1st and 2nd place competed for fame and 2 million merits. After all, the 1st place had more than the 2nd place, which was only 2 million merits and fame. In this way, if he and Luo Bin could pass the test, the probability of meeting before the 8-4 was still quite high. In this battle, Wu Yu was most afraid of Luo Bin from the Kanglong camp next door. This was an existence of the level of the Yanhuang city lord, or even stronger. Anyway, she did not belong to Dongsheng Shenzhou. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. When Wu Yu went to Yan Palace, he felt like a scholar waiting for the imperial list, and he was always a little nervous. In front of the Yan battle list, there were huge crowds of people and noisy voices. On this day, tens of thousands of Yanhuang immortal army gathered here and discussed loudly. Wu Yu stood behind the crowd. 91 points, indeed no need to participate in the qualifying battle. Wu Yu had heard before this day that 12 of them were between 86 and 88 points, and they needed to participate in the qualifying battle to decide 3 people who would enter the list of 32. Coincidentally, his first opponent needed to win 2 consecutive battles before he could duel with him. He looked and found that his order was among the 32, the second to last, the last position. He looked forward and saw Murongsu, Zhangzhigzun, Li Kahai, and Qin Fuwei. These people were relatively separated, and it was estimated that the person who arranged them did not want them to meet too early. Finally, he saw Luo Bin. She was the second one. Coincidentally, her opponent also needed to fight 2 consecutive games before he could duel with her. The entire Yan battle list is symmetrical, with Wu Yu and her being the second on the left and right. Wu Yu heaved a sigh of relief, at least he wouldn't meet Luo Bin before the final battle. There will be an update at 2200 hours in the evening. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 411. Chapter 408 Ancient Battlefield. This is a one-time elimination battle. The stronger the opponent is, the faster he will stop. Even if he is the seed for the championship, he will stop in the top 16 if he encounters it in advance. So when the generals arranged the Yan battle list, they were very particular. First, they separated the ones with the highest scores to prevent early collisions. Then, when the 16 were to the 8, or the 8 to the 4, the ones who were most likely to rush into the top 3 had to fight each other. The arrangement mode was also the confrontation between the old and the new. For example, when Wu Yu defeated his opponent in the first battle and entered the top 16, there was a centurion who had practiced Taoism for more than 200 years in the third and fourth to last positions. He was an old man with a score of 96. In this group of 4, Wu Yu and this old man were considered seeds. They had to experience a strong collision between the old and the new before they could enter the top 8. Others, such as the so-called Yanhuang San Xiao, Qin Fuwei, etc., would also have a middle-aged or elderly opponent with a high score when they entered the top 8. It is marked above. Murongsu scored 98 points, Zhangzhigzun scored 93 points, and Li Kahai scored 96 points. Among them, Zhangzhigzun may be good at mechanical arrays, so the score of attacking Yanhuang war drum is slightly lower. But these scores are considered the top 3 favorites. Although Wu Yu's score is not very high, because of his special clone from Shushan and his surpassing performance in Donghai, he was also arranged as a favorite by the 3 generals. However, Wu Yu took a look and thought that if Li Kahai, who is closest to him, can also rush into the top 8, then I am afraid that I will have to compete with him for the top 4. As long as you enter the top 4 and do not lose 2 games in a row, you are eligible to enter the City Lord's Mansion. The most critical thing is actually the first 3 battles. Wu Yu has a good idea in his mind. The first opponent cannot be determined, but the second opponent should be the old man named Puang Yi. Since the 3 generals gave him 96 points, it means that he is absolutely powerful. In terms of popularity, the voice should be higher than Wu Yu. The third opponent is Li Kahai as expected. Among the 3 young masters of Yanhuang, Wu Yu now knows the least about Li Kahai. Such a name is also a bit strange. Li Kahai is the adopted son of General Jinluan, and General Jinluan is one of the top generals in Yanhuang Imperial City. It is said that he has been following the emperor for many years. He memorized the Yan battle list clearly, and everyone knew the opponent in each round. Just as he was about to leave, he found that Luo Bin was looking at him from behind. Her eyes were still very calm, like a gem, a still lake, without waves. It's a pity, it seems difficult to meet you unless you and I compete for the first and second place, Luo Bin said in a flat voice. Even so, it was like a spring. Try your best once, you and I can enter the top 8, it's already very good, there are so many strong people here, Wu Yu said modestly. Lupin shook her head and said, I think you are definitely in the top 4. Maybe, one of the top 3. Commander Luo thinks highly of me. Wu Yu didn't dare to act too strange, so as not to let her know that he knew her identity. However, Lupin didn't continue the topic. She looked at the noisy crowd in front and said, last time I left, you seemed to catch up with me. Is there anything? Wu Yu smiled awkwardly. To be honest, he was a little nervous talking to this fairy beast dragon, so he seemed a little shy. He didn't know how to answer this question for a while. Lupin saw him giggle a few times, and his tone became gentler. He said, it's too noisy here. We can go to the ancient battlefield in 5 days. Let's go back together. Well, let's go together. Wu Yu followed her and walked side by side with her. She didn't seem to like the noisy environment, so she frowned slightly. Standing beside her, you can feel her mystery and vastness, as well as a hint of strangeness. In order to expand the influence of the Yan War, the battlefield was actually set up in the outer city of the Yanhuang Emperor City. Every time the Yan War took place, many forces came to the Yanhuang Emperor City to watch the battle. This was actually a way for the Yanhuang Emperor City to show its strength. The 32 strongest centurions had the most intense competition and collision, and the old and new fought each other. Every Yan War was extremely fierce and had superb viewing value. It also made many powerful forces in Shenzhou praise it. It is said that Xuanhuan will also send some representatives to watch the battle. The ancient battlefield is said to be a former battlefield in the outer city. It is a huge valley with mountains, rivers, trees, etc., but it is said that everything in it is relatively tough under the nourishment of the ancient spiritual energy all year round. The two had just taken a step, and Wu Yu was thinking about the topic. Suddenly, there was a cry. Someone in the crowd called him. Hearing the soft and charming voice that made people forget everything, he knew that it was Qin Fuwei. The crowd in front of them dispersed immediately. It was indeed Qin Fuwei, who was dressed to the nines, like a peerless beauty. She walked towards Wu Yu, swaying and charming. She was indeed more enthusiastic and eye-catching than Luo Bin. Wu Yu, come here quickly. I'll introduce you to some good friends. Qin Fuwei waved at him. Maybe it was the gap between women, she acted as if she didn't see Luo Bin. Of course, maybe she felt that Luo Bin was not in their circle. Their circle was the top talents. Behind Qin Fuwei, there are 3 men. These 3 men can be said to have their own characteristics. First of all, 2 of them are wearing Yanhuang immortal armor, or let Yanhuang immortal armor keep its appearance. The middle one, his figure is similar to that of Wu Yu, his complexion is fair, gentle, and elegant, his eyes are as calm as water, and he seems to be more sophisticated in his worldly manners. The Yanhuang immortal armor can make him more heroic. If you look carefully, you can see the constant flash in his eyes. The dark purple thunder can be regarded as gentle with a hint of strong domineering. It is obvious that this is General Murong's son Murong Su. Looking at his face, he is similar to General Murong. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. This person is the genius of Yanhuang Emperor City who owns the Taoist weapon 100 Thunder Taoist Sword. Another person is also wearing Yanhuang immortal armor, but his Yanhuang immortal armor is particularly thick. That is because this person is very thick. He is 1.5 feet taller than Wu Yu, and is much thicker. His arms are like those of ordinary people. The waist is very long, like a huge ape, and the whole body is full of explosive strength. Among the human race, Wu Yu rarely sees a person with such a powerful body. The body of flesh and blood is as if it is made of gold, revealing the transcendence. With the strong aura of demons, it is hard to imagine that someone can almost catch up with the golden body of Namo Moon King Buddha before him in terms of physical body. This man's eyes were dark golden, and there was strong pressure hidden in his eyes. He was like a rough beast. Compared with Murong Su next to him, his sense of intimacy was as high as in the sky and on the ground. Since he appeared, the people next to him were astonishing. The Yanhuang immortal army quickly stayed away, not daring to discuss them at all. This is the child that General Jinluan found in the underground volcano, Li Kahai. The third man has a slender and elegant figure. He has changed the Yanhuang immortal armor into a light green robe. He has long flowing hair and a graceful demeanor. There is always a smile on the corner of his mouth, which makes people feel like taking a breath of spring breeze. He is more like a chic scribe. However, Wu Yu could tell at a glance that this one, on the other hand, was particularly arrogant, because when Qin Fuyu was calling him, the other two were looking at him, and this one was full of interest and was talking to the roadside. The women were talking, laughing, and having fun. Wu Yu, they all want to see you, Qin Fuyu waved, and without waiting for Wu Yu's consent, she directly pulled Wu Yu away from Luo Bin, pulled him to Murong Su and others, and said, "You guys are good, look, this is my good brother. With him here, you can't bully me anymore." Murong Su smiled slightly and said, "We don't dare to provoke you at this point." He faced Wu Yu and said calmly, "I am Murong Su, this is the first time we meet, and I have known you for a long time." "Nice to meet you." Wu Yu saw Luo Bin waiting for him, so he decided to get to know these three people. Seeing these influential figures gathered together, the center of attention immediately shifted from the Yan battle list to Wu Yu and others. Li Kahai said very little and his voice was very rough. He said his name and it was considered an introduction. This is a collision of physical momentum. In fact, Li Kahai wants to suppress himself in this aspect. Although he surpasses everyone, he is still too young compared to Wu Yu. Even if he is standing next to him, Wu Yu does not feel it. The violent threat of physical force. Hey, this young man is the legendary man who has been in the limelight recently, the new great genius born in our Yanhuang Emperor city, the strange man named Wu Yu. It would be Zhang Zhigzun's turn to reply. He turned around and said with a smile, "Don't be a fool." Qin Fui rolled her eyes at him, and was about to invite Wu Yu to go play with her, but Wu Yu noticed that Luo Bin had already turned around and left. He had just promised to go back with her. Since he had agreed it was about to be done, so before Qin Fui said anything, Wu Yu hurriedly said, "Everyone, I have something to do, so I will leave first. See you on the ancient battlefield in 5 days." After saying that, he hurriedly followed Luo Bin. Qin Fui ran away before he finished speaking. She was naturally a little displeased, but she just smiled and cursed, "This Wu Yu really doesn't give me face, that's all. If he was sensible and smooth, he wouldn't do it." Chushan is here. Zhang Zhigzun chuckled and said, "No need to explain to him, he clearly looks down on us three brothers. All the newcomers want to defeat us in the Yan War and get the quota. Murong Su, what do you think?" Murong Su smiled slightly and said nothing. Zhang Zhigzun turned to Li Kahai again. Li Kahai stared at Wu Yu's voice after he left, then took another look at Yan Zhan's ranking, and said, "I just hope he can rush to the top 8. Even if Yan Zhan can't reach him, I still want to try his physical body." What's going on? Exercised. This statement does have some gunpowder smell.